Everyone, welcome to Force Conversation, the show where two scruffy-looking nerf herders like to get together and talk about Star Wars. My name's Jay Tank.
And I'm Colin.
Welcome to the show. How you doing, Colin?
I'm all right, man. Yeah, really good. Another week, another Star Warsy week.
Yeah.
Exciting, Forcey, bit closer to Rogue One.
Oh,
Ooh.
It's really close now, man. What is it, 2 weeks away?
Yeah, it is 2 weeks.
Just over 2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks, no, it's 2
day.
weeks today, isn't it? 15th, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
What day is it today? I don't even know. Thursday. Yeah, but it's Thursday, and it comes out on a Thursday.
Yep, so I guess it is 2 weeks. Awesome. Wow. I cannot wait. I'm getting so excited. And a new clip dropped today of The Force Awakens. You didn't watch it, did you? I didn't watch it because I'm getting too excited and I can't think about anything else. So I'm having to have a bit of a stay away so that I don't just spend the whole time watching those clips. It's crazy. I was compelled to press the button. I was like, there's this moment, and I was like, do I watch it or do I not watch it? And I was like, look, it's not going to ruin anything. And it didn't. It didn't ruin anything, I don't think. It was a nice little clip. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's out there at the moment. I think I watched it through StarWarsNews.net, which is a really good site that compiles all the good Star Wars news. Yeah. And yeah, I thought it was an awesome little clip. It just made me more excited. I was watching it going, oh my God, this is coming. I can't wait. 2 weeks away. So yeah, it was good. It was good. But you know what? You don't need to watch it because you're going to see it in 2 weeks.
I know. How exciting. How exciting. Okay, Jay. So first item on our agenda of coolness today is going to be the news.
Ooh.
So, the first bit of news we've got here, obviously Rogue One tickets were released in the USA.
Yeah.
And they did pretty well, I hear. Pretty good figures.
Yeah, they. I think they were the number 2 for ticket sales of 20. Number 2 for ticket sales just after The Force Awakens.
That's pretty mad.
That's pretty good for considering that we're at the end of the year, and Force Awakens came out a year ago. So it's pretty good going. I mean, there was some problems where I think Fandango went down. A couple of the other movie sites just crashed, and people in the States, they want to see this movie, and they were queuing up outside the cinemas.
So it's tracking something like 135.
Yeah, they're saying between about 135 to 140. So it's chewy.
That's my little co-host here. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's looking like it's going to make a lot of money, and look. Star Wars fans, what do? We watch it once, and then we watch it again, and again, and again. So, I mean...
you're doing that in one day, aren't you?
I'm doing it in one day, 3 times. I mean, even if it's not great, we will go, no, it's good. It's really good.
Well, look at the denial of the Phantom Menace, and how many times we saw that, and still didn't, until a long time later, on reflection, realised it was... Poodoo.
Look, I mean, the thing with things like the Phantom Menace, the stories are good. The execution was maybe not so good, and that's the shame. And they do actually look a little bit dated now as well if you watch them, which because of the CG. There was, if you look at something like, say, Lord of the Rings, where they use CG and live action. That kind of survives a bit longer because the costumes are costumes. They look the same, But, when you see like a video game and you're like, oh my God, it's the best graphics I've ever seen. And then you look at it again in like 2-3 years and you're like, oh, really? I used to think this was amazing, it doesn't look terrible by any means, but you can see that it's aged. But yeah, look, this one looks like a lot more practical effects we use here. We've seen all the costumes they've got. We've seen that, I think it's on Scarif, they filmed that in the Maldives, and they used the Maldives army as stormtroopers. So
pretty good.
That's pretty cool because you're going to have some
pretty authentic
using authentic military moves. Hopefully, I can't wait, and obviously the guys in the States can't wait because when the ticket sales were crashing all the sites, they were just down at the cinema, queuing up, banging on the doors, let me in, give me my tickets. I mean, I know the stress that I was going through when they went on sale here.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
for that to happen, oh man. But yeah, what they're saying, it's tracking at, according to Deadline, somewhere between the 100 million to 140 million range. So in between there, I reckon it's going to come in at around 140 and probably do a bit more than that. But yeah,
it's definitely not going to be a problem, is it, for Disney?
No.
They're not going to be bothered, are they? They're going to be quite happy. The next news story, Jay, Kathleen Kennedy has been saying that there's going to be no sequel to Rogue One. What do you think of that, buddy?
Well, we already got our sequel to Rogue One back in 1977. They called it Star Wars: A New Hope. Yeah, look, I mean, she said that even if this movie makes a ton of money, which of course it probably will, they're not going to make a sequel to it. Chances are all the characters die at the end, or end up going for a party on Alderaan, which means that things ain't going to turn out too good. But yeah, look, cool. It's a standalone movie. They said that right from the beginning. I know that you're quite interested in maybe a kind of sequel.
So I guess conceptually, though, Jay, there could actually be a sequel to Rogue One in a way that it's more about, not with the same characters, but the same concept. So how they got the plans, or the many Bothans died.
That was for Return of the Jedi. No.
Because, I know, that's what I'm saying.
So you mean like later on, like when it's coming up to... Yeah, they could do
that. So that could be
the
sequel.
Yeah, of course.
So it's not the same characters, not the same... So it's not a direct sequel, but the concept is the same.
So what happened when it came to the second... Because, of course,
because I would love... To be honest, that was always a story I wanted to hear. I wanted to know, because the Boffin sounded cool. Do you know what I mean? Oh, Boffins, man. Many of them died.
Many of them died. But obviously not all of them.
Many
some
died.
That was uncannily like Mon Mothma.
I know. Amazing. That's what they should have got me to play her in the old Rogue One, shouldn't they?
They definitely should have. I reckon you could have done it. But yeah, I mean, look, anyway, Kathleen Kennedy said, no, there's not going to be a sequel to it. She goes, even if it makes a ton of money, there's not. However, you're right. There could be another standalone movie later on.
There is another.
There's always another. But there could be another one later on that is to do with that Death Star, right? If this one is popular and everyone loves it, then it's like, well, of course, okay, we'll show that one later on. And it's not directly a sequel. It's just another standalone movie, but we'll all know it's a sequel because of where it falls.
Well, so, if they call it Rogue 2, then it might be a sequel.
I don't think they'll do that, though.
Okay. Well, look, talking about potential sequel, other films, other standalone films, there's also been some talk around what's going to happen with an Obi Wan film, or not.
Or not, yes.
So, tell me more about that. Okay, to be fair, I haven't read the story.
Okay,
I've heard it.
This was to do with the Entertainment Weekly reporter Anthony Bresnikan.
Old Ant.
Old Ant.
Oh, Tony.
Well, he was at Celebration. He's done a few things for Lucasfilm and Disney. The story is a bit of a... I heard from a guy. But at the same time, because
was he down the pub?
Maybe. But because he's done work with Disney and Lucasfilm, you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe he has heard from someone, or maybe, they're like, okay, it's all right to say that, because that's
he's credible. He's credible.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, though, like, if you're in, right, you're not going to say something to ruin that for yourself, are you? So there must be a part of it that's like, okay, it's all right to say this. And what he said is, I've got it written down here, he's basically said that Disney haven't moved sooner on a Ewan McGregor-led Obi Wan movie is because they aren't quite done with Obi Wan in the Saga movies. So we may not see
Force Ghost
Obi Wan movies until after Episode 9, right? So yeah, you're right. So that's what would come to mind, right? Force Ghost, because what else are they going to do? So it's possible, maybe on Ahch-To, where Luke is, and he's going to train Rey, perhaps. Maybe they see Obi-Wan. Because now, I don't have an exact reference for this right now, but I either read something or heard somewhere recently that there was something to do with Frank Oz being on set for episode 8. So
that would be cool.
Well, what would that tell you, though?
Yoda.
Right. So yeah, it's possible we might be seeing Yoda. We might be seeing
all
Obi-Wan
the Force
in
ghosts.
Movies. And but we know that Luke has seen them.
Yeah.
He saw Sebastian Shaw, who turned into Hayden Christensen as well.
I was just going to say, is he still alive, Sebastian Shaw?
No, he's dead.
Let's face it, we don't want to see Hayden Christensen again.
Well, he's dead, unfortunately. But I don't think that they'll put Anakin in there. But possibly Obi-Wan.
It'd be cool if they did. I would like to actually. Yeah, scratch what I just said. I would like to see Hayden Christensen. Christian come back. I would love to see him come back.
Look, the guy's not actually a terrible actor.
He was just terribly directed.
Well, look, someone like Natalie Portman, right? She's a really good actress, but she wasn't good in Star Wars.
No, and he was Ewan McGregor.
The direction. Ewan McGregor did. Yeah, he was the best out of them, and he did the best he could. But we've seen him act a lot better than that. So it is to do with the direction. Maybe with a much better director, these guys could be good. I don't know that I want to see Anakin appear in it. Maybe there was something. There was something. I'm probably getting this wrong. It was something to do with. And I think it's the concept.
We never get it wrong here.
Someone on the group can correct us on this. I think it's something to do with the concept art where there was meant to be an Anakin Vader ghost, something like that. I might be totally wrong. I've just looked at something, but if you're watching this, which you should be, and you're on the group, leave a comment or leave a comment below on the video and let us know what it is exactly.
Or if you're not in the group and you want to join the group,
join it.
How can they do that, Jay?
Oh, they can go to Facebook and join Forced Conversations. But, there's all this stuff coming. But then, if you think about it this way, so we've got Episode 8 coming out in 2018, right? So then you're going to have Han Solo 2019, and then 2020 is Episode 9. And Lando, yeah. And so then 2020 is going to be Episode 9. So after that, I say they'll start filming probably around then, give it another year, maybe, let's say Obi-Wan's the first one. So, Ewan McGregor's going to be a few years older, probably around the age of just a bit younger than what Alec Guinness was, maybe. So,
The thing is, though, if he's going to play the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan, and we've already seen the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan, and he looks old.
They can hold him up.
It's going to be weird. I know they can hold him up, but surely you could do an animated Force Ghost based on Alec Guinness.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, look.
But they could mocap. What's his face? Ewan. I'm getting confused there.
Put Alec Guinness over the top.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they could do something like that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a hologram. It's not hologram. It's like a hologram, isn't it? Like a blue, flashy ghost. So, yeah, they could do that. Who knows what they'll do. But, after that, you're looking at, let's say there's going to be an Obi-Wan movie. He's going to be obviously on Tatooine. He's going to be nearing the age of Ben when we saw him in Episode 4. Yeah, I mean, see, that's another one that's a bit weird because you want the adventures of Obi-Wan. Like, do you want him to be so close to where we first met him, or would you rather him a bit younger, a bit fitter? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't want any crazy old wizards.
Yeah, I don't know what would happen there, but it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, that's basically the story about the Obi-Wan movies. So what do you think of that anyway?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I didn't think there'd be another, cause like you say, Han Solo film's already locked in, so there wasn't going to be another standalone until after Episode 9 anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So to be fair, not a big shock. In fact, it's just news.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. Yeah. This was in the news. It's like, okay, yeah, but it's going to be after 9. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, well. That's a waste of time.
Anyway, that's what's happening. So, it happened and we thought we should talk about it.
Yeah. It's exciting. Anyway,
it's exciting. Look, the idea of it happening is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, look, that was a great bit of news that we have dissected and cogitated on and thought about and ultimately realised was a load of rubbish. But something that isn't a load of rubbish, well, it is actually, this is just as bad. The non-story that there was going to be a Younglings cartoon spin-off of Clone Wars.
Yeah. So
now I can see in your face, Shay, because you love all the really kiddie bits of Clone Wars and Rebels. You would love this Younglings idea, wouldn't you?
I'm glad it didn't happen. All right. Mm-hmm. So you know what Younglings they were, don't you?
Well, there was a young Wookiee. I can remember that.
Right. So it's the season 5 Younglings.
Yeah.
So where
because they went and got that kyber crystals, didn't they?
Yeah.
And Ahsoka was their sort of guardian and took them there. I seem to remember.
With Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda popped up in that episode. Yeah,
I think he took them there to do like a final test or some crap like that. I don't know. It was something. Anyway,
well, that's part of the Padawan journey, isn't it?
Supposedly, what happened was that season was getting a bit dark, and they wanted to lighten it up, and then
not dark enough for you, Jay, was it?
No. But Pablo Hidalgo put out some tweets in the week that explained it, and I have the tweets right here, which I've also got these through StarWarsNewsNet.com. So guys should all check that out. It's really good site. Oh, I've got a friend here right now as well. Catch his hand up. So Hidalgo said the Youngling eps were going to be removed from season 5 and put together as its own potential pilot movie for a series that never happened. George put them together as a movie and sat in on a test screening of them at Celebration, a screening that encouraged kids and parents and kids to go. He ultimately decided not to do it and put them back into season 5. But it's interesting to know that he was planning this during the sale of Star Wars. And so that was it. He was going to just he wanted to do a whole season of it, but ultimately, apparently George Lucas watched it and was like, nah, this ain't going to work. I'm stuck him back in season 5. So
I've got to say, focusing on a new group of characters during the Clone Wars is a massive mistake because, let's face it, they're either all going to die or we've got to come up with some convoluted reason as to how they survived and we don't know about them now.
Yeah, here he is.
Yeah.
You can't go over there.
That fuzzball.
He is a fuzzball. Laugh it up, fuzzball. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it would have done very well. It would have been made for little kids. I can't see like many of the more adult fans watching that cartoon. Yeah. I know I would have really. I would have forced myself because it's like, oh God, they've made this Star Wars canon, and I would have had to force myself to watch it and hate every single episode. Can you imagine? That would have been. Oh yeah, no.
It wouldn't have been fun, mate. Would not have been
fun. Let's go on to something else that wasn't fun.
Okay, well, let's talk about reviews.
Ooh.
So, review section. I can see again your overload of joy from this week's episode of Rebels.
Yeah, that was Rebels. What was it called? The Wynkahthu Job. Wynkahthu Job. With everyone's favourite Hondo in it. Look, there were actually 2 things in this episode that I really liked.
Yeah, right? What were they? Let's start with the positives, Jay, please.
Right, the positives. The first one was AP5, because I'm not a big fan of Chopper.
Yeah, I love him.
Right? But I like AP5, and he makes me laugh whenever he's on. And even on this episode, he made me chuckle. It's his really like condescending voice, and he's I can't be bothered with this. And I love that about him. I find it quite funny. So there was that, and the second thing was the end credits because it meant it was over.
Oh, that's a bit hard.
I hated this episode. Not only did they have Hondo in it, as I said last week, I hate Hondo, right? But now, because they thought maybe people don't dislike him enough, let's make him part of a double act. Whenever he turns up, as Morrigan will turn up. I hate Asmorgan more than Hondo. Oh my God. And the worst thing is, I watched that episode when it came out. I think I watched it on Saturday. And because we were doing this evening, and when there's things that I hate, I have this tendency to just purge them from my memory. So I was like, oh God, I better watch it again to remind myself what I hated about it. So
you watched it twice.
The show, I had to sit and watch it again, and I was just sitting there going, oh my God, I hate this. And like even the little bit where there are those, what are the droids, in the Imperial ship, you know, the big, I can't remember, the Guardians, whatever they were.
Sentinels.
Sentry droids.
Sentry.
As Morrigan comes around the corner and he's going, and he's like shooting, and he hits one and takes it out. That pissed me off because I was like, no, he should not hit any of them. He's too crap. He should just get shot to pieces. But no, that's not going to happen. So this guy is out there, and unless we see him die in Rebels, which we're probably not going to, you've got to live with the fact that he's probably out there somewhere in the galaxy, and that just should not happen, right?
Oh.
And well, also, the other thing is they were getting those proton bombs. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, they're getting those proton bombs, right? We did not need to see that, right? That could have been a passing comment in another episode going, oh, yeah, we picked up these proton bombs off a downed Star Destroyer, blah, 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 whatever, and then got on with an episode that was meaningful. We didn't need to see this. It was just oh, man, we've got too many episodes this season. What do? Let's just fill in some space. That doesn't need to happen.
That is the problem, isn't it? That is the problem, because these episodes are fillers. They're not moving the main story along, and that's why they're frustrating. I mean, to be fair, I didn't really mind it. I mean, it wasn't my favourite episode. It definitely, it's not one I'm ever going to watch again. But I mean, there was some. I thought the sort of fighty scenes. I think there was a couple of cool bits in it, but the entrance of all the sentry droids when they all came together, that was cool.
Yeah,
the big one's head came up. So there were a couple of good images. But yeah, the characters weren't that great. I just find it impossible to believe that Ezra likes this bloke. I mean, that doesn't ring true.
No.
The fact that the rest of the crew even put up with him, it just doesn't. None of it made sense.
Just jetting him.
I like the little Ugnaught. He was cool.
I like Ugnaughts, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I do like Ugnaughts. So why could they just not have a couple of those doing something?
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to waste my time talking about something we didn't like.
I do want to say something else though. I saw the clip for next week's episode. Inside Man comes out this Saturday. Now that looks good. It looks like we're going to get back to a bit of Thrawn being ruthless. Have you seen the little clip?
No.
Check it out, dude. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's worth checking out, and it made me excited for next week's because, look, I liked last week's episode more than I liked this week's episode. Right?
Okay.
And I didn't like last week's episode. But when you're getting like 2 or 3 like that back to back, you start going, oh man, like do I want to watch this? So I'm glad that next week it looks like, I think we're coming up to now the mid-season finale, which will be in 2 episodes' time. So it looks like they want to obviously finish that little bit on a high. So we've got a bit of Thrawn next week. That's cool. I mean, for me so far, the episode that I've liked the most this season has been the one where they picked up Wedge from the Imperials. I just thought that was such a great episode. Yeah. And you know what? We're 3 seasons in. They're forming the rebellion. This is what I want to see. I want to see how that's happening. That was such a good and well put together episode. So, hopefully next week's will be good, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, let's hope it is. We get some improvements. As you say, I think hopefully as we wind up to the mid-season finale, maybe we'll see some Ahsoka. I know she's not your favourite, but she's definitely mine. So.
I like her a bit better in Rebels. I've liked her in Rebels. I didn't like her so much when she was younger. As I said, in Clone Wars, as much as I wasn't a great fan of Clone Wars, as she got a bit older towards the end, I sort of started to like her. I was like, okay, she's not too bad. And when she appeared in Rebels, I was like, okay, she's pretty cool now. So, it's just, look, I know that these cartoons are initially aimed at kids. They're on Disney. And I think that it's just that when it's really kiddie, I start to not like it. And I like it when they get the balance right, where they put something in there for the kids, but also they put something there for the long-time fans who've, been fans from the beginning. We want to see these stories as well. I liked her when she was older because there's just more to her for me.
Totally agree. Okay, right. So let's move on to something I really have been enjoying, and I think you have, the ones that you've read, and that's the recent crop of Marvel Star Wars comics. Obviously, with the with Force Awakens and the resetting of the canon from Disney taking everything on, Marvel took over the comics license from Dark Horse. All the old Legends comics were wiped out, and Marvel was given free reign to start again and set up a whole new load of canon comics, most of them being set between Star Wars, A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back. And it initially kicked off with Star Wars, the main flagship title. So many copies sold that it had about 1 million different variant covers. I think they released a art book just on the different covers, just from that one book.
Wow. A whole book on that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty cool. And all the best artists. But I think what Marvel really did right when they did this, they put top name creators on this. You know, you had Jason Aaron, you've got people like Mark Waid. You just got all the greats. You've got some really good artists. You've got my brain's just completely gone on it. But Terry Dodson. You've had dear. Let's not go into this list of artists that I can't remember. But let's just believe me, like top artists from Marvel, top writers from Marvel, they're all on there. Brilliant stuff. So the sort of titles we've had so far, the two main ones have been Star Wars, the main title, and Darth Vader's had his own title. But also there's been mini-series come out. There's been a Princess Leia mini-series. Han Solo one's
the Leia one wasn't so good.
The Leia
one was weak.
It was a brilliant art. That was definitely.
You liked the art in that?
Oh, amazing art for that one. And Mark Waid, so it was all right, and that told a bit of a backstory around some of the people from Alderaan and Princess Leia trying to gather up the people that survived, you know, the different people across the galaxy that from Alderaan. So that was quite interesting. Han Solo one's been quite good. He's on a mission, and part of that mission, his cover is on a race in Chewie have entered in the Falcon, so that's been quite good. The Lando one was probably the weakest one I read.
Okay. See, I haven't read that one yet. I have it, but I do know a lot of people were saying that it was really good. A lot of people seem to like it.
It didn't really capture me a bit, but then
I captured Lando.
Oh no, I didn't capture Lando, and Lando didn't capture me. Because if he had done, he'd have sold me out like a scum that he is. So. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't really get on with it. But then, like I say, my tastes are more the Jedi type stuff and the more fanciful superheroics, and that was more a smuggler tale. It was very low key story, and equally, I didn't enjoy the Chewbacca one, which was similar, and also really hard to read because it was just. Which that's rubbish.
Yeah.
But he had little friends, some it was a bit. It reminded me of Caravan of Courage, the Ewok movie.
Yeah.
Even though the story was nothing to do with that. It's just.
In that they all the Ewoks spoke English. So did they not have a little? They must have had a translation for Chewie.
Right? I don't think they did. To be honest, I don't think they did.
Okay. I have it. I haven't read it yet.
Well, you've got to catch up, Jay.
They're all here. They're all a pile of them here.
What else have we had? Oh, the Poe Dameron miniseries. That was the one I was most surprised about. I've really been enjoying that.
Okay.
They've introduced a really interesting character working for the First Order.
Is this set before Episode 7, the Poe Dameron?
Yeah, just before. He's basically looking for... I'm so rubbish with names. The geezer that he was talking to at the beginning of Force Awakens.
Lord Santekka.
That's the one. Oh, Tekken. Hadouken!
That's Street Fighter.
I'm rubbish. Who let me on this podcast? So, going back to my plot line. Anyway, so he's got this great nemesis on there. Really interesting character. And the most recent episode of that issue let's be proper comic fans here, issue, it gave his backstory, and without spoiling it, the interesting bit is he was one of the stormtroopers in the Battle of Jakku.
Ooh. Sorry, who's this? Who's the stormtrooper?
This is the nemesis of Poe in the storyline. So I won't go into any more on that, but that was quite interesting. So you saw a bit of Jakku battle action and what happened after that from his point of view. So that was interesting. So out of all these titles, though, the one comic that I think really stood out is the Darth Vader title. Written by Kieran Gillen. He's wrote all 25 issues of it. Mm-hmm. Most of the art was Salvador Larroca, who just his version of Vader is just so beautiful. The work he's done in that has just been amazing. And also, I think there was also a couple of fill-ins by Lillian someone, but they're not so important. He only did a couple of episodes. It's mainly Gillen and LaRocca, so let's just focus on them. But basically, again, it's set in the same time period between Star Wars and Empire. It's all about Darth Vader, Dave Vader, yeah. That's what he's known amongst, his chums on the Executioner. So basically, Dave, he's got a lot to prove. It didn't go so well. Spoilers for Rogue One, but eventually that Death Star blows up. And, So
they get the plans in.
I think Vader really got the finger pointing at him. So he's got a bit to prove. He's got to make sure the Emperor still believes that he's his main man. And there's another fellow in the background that he's feeling a bit threatened by.
Who's he?
Silo or something like that. He's he's coming up with all the he's basically enhancing some other people.
Is he the dude with the cyborg eye? Is that
he is a cyborg eye man, and he was also, it turns out, one of the people that helped make Darth Vader's armor when they rebuilt him. So he knows all the weaknesses. He does know the weaknesses, or does he? But I mean, Kieran Gillen, absolutely brilliant. I actually went to the Star Wars Marvel panel at Star Wars Celebration Europe in London this year, and I was sat right at the front. And in fact, on the streaming video of it, which went up on StarWars.com, I actually walked right in front of it. So you got my big baldy head in front of it, because I went to get in the queue to ask a question, and unfortunately the queue was at the back of the room, and I was right at the front, so I didn't get to answer my question, which was annoying.
What were you going to ask?
Well, actually, this was what I was just going to go on to in terms of the review. The genius thing about the run of this is he's introduced 3 really interesting characters, and what I wanted to know was his inspiration. He's introduced 2 droids that look like an alternative version of R2 and C-3PO.
I do like those.
So you've got 000, who is basically the equivalent of C-3PO, and you've got BT-1, or BT, who's also an astromech droid. But they are totally evil. All they are thinking about is different ways to kill people and try to dissect them and torture and inflict pain every second they can get. There's all these little snidey comments every chance they get. And also, they're owned by a new character called Dr. Alpha, who's a bit of a mercenary scientist that Vader's employed to help try and find out who is this Skywalker chap. I don't even think he knows he's Skywalker, to be honest, initially, but find out a bit more about Luke and try and get to, there's a bit of a crossover with the main Star Wars title.
I was about to ask that, at the beginning, right? Or was it the whole way through?
Yeah, at the beginning mainly, and then there was like a mini-series that crossed over called Vader Down. Yeah. And this was amazing. Basically, Vader gets cut off from the rest of his fleet, gets in a big fight. There's this amazing shot of all the X-Wings and fighting and everything, and like all these dead bodies floating around everywhere. And then basically Vader ends up crashing on his planet and basically has to fight a whole planet's worth of people. And he's just awesome. I mean, it just made him look so cool. But the characterizations that Kieran Gillen brings into these characters, there are people you've never heard of before, but they really sort of steal the book in some ways.
I do have the Vader comics. I think that I don't have the last 2 or 3. I need to pick those ones up, and I haven't read all of it. I sort of read maybe the first quarter of them. One of the things, like with you having read them all, there's actually 2 questions. So the new characters that are introduced, so including the droids, but also including Dr. Alpha and whoever else, do they fit as Star Wars characters? Do you think they have the Star Wars-ness about them, or do you know what I mean? Do you find that they fit?
I do know what you mean. I mean, I think there's always. I think with all the Star Wars comics, and this goes right back to the original Marvel ones.
With Jackson.
They had a feeling that they weren't quite in the same universe. That this was a bit wonk.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether that's because you at the time then you knew that they weren't canon, whereas this, we absolutely know everything that goes on in these comics are canon. So, no, I think they're fairly true to it. I mean, there is a danger, I think, of the comics in the fact that they're going to go too far explaining things and telling us too much. I was really wary of a Darth Vader comic because, to be honest, we know so much about him already. Anything that's going to ruin the mystique and soften him, I don't want him becoming likeable when he's Darth Vader.
This is actually something I was going to ask you about, because one of the things that concerns me about it, and when I was saying about the characters, that Silo, he kind of looks like Kano from Mortal Kombat. But one of the things that was concerning me was that they would either, because if they keep on doing like an ongoing series, right? They've got to find stories. There's eventually a point where they go, we've got to fit some stories in, and then I worry about, we have to underpower this character because they're too powerful for this situation, and I don't really want that. And there's a real big part of me when this started with the comics. Look, it's a really interesting idea, the way that they're having everything canon and it all crosses over and connects together. It's a great way to get money from people. And look, in the books, okay, cool, right? The books so far have overall been quite good, and they've got good characterizations of the characters and that. But I don't, with the comics and that, it's very tied, and when they put them close to the other movies, this now also affects the way you see the characters in the movies, and that kind of bugs me. And then they want to do it with the video games as well, and I don't like that at all. For me, I'd rather the video games were not canon, because let's say you have a nice open world game, or you could have an MMO RPG or something. I want it to be free enough that you can affect the universe around you, but when it's all going to be canon, you're going to be very constricted to what you can do. And that's a bit of a worry. And like these comics, they want to keep them going. They want to keep them going for a long time. So there's going to come a point where one of 2 things is going to happen. They're going to have to start changing the way the characters are a little bit to make them fit in, or Disney Lucasfilm will have to retcon it and go, okay, it's not canon anymore, because if something doesn't fit. And I know they've got the story group on it, and there's a lot of people working on this, and they reference other things, and they make sure it all fits together. But how long can you go on with that? I mean, we're only coming into the second movie, which is not even the second Saga movie in the new canon, and when we get to, say, episode 9, we'll be years in, That's a lot. And then at the same time, it kind of sucks from a fan point of view that if you want to know it all, you need to be a millionaire. It's like, oh, come on, man, give us a break. And especially people who've got little kids, you want to get your little kids into this, and maybe the kid loves it from day one and then wants to know it all, and parents are becoming bankrupt because you want to let them, and I think that's a bit of a shitty thing to do to fans in a way. There's a little bit of, you could have certain things canon, and other things could be, you know what I mean?
I get, and I guess for the geek contingent like us, where we are absolutely have to know everything.
Well,
we've got that collector mentality. we have got, but we sort of talked about this last week. Star Wars has got a fandom that has also got a lot more of a casual side to it.
Yeah.
So I think there are people that aren't completists and that don't need to know everything, and they're quite happy whatever they come across to just read. And with that, part of me is also, again, I don't know what you think on this. I'm not sure that I want everything to be canon. I know you said that about the games, but generally I would quite like that some stories can just be told as stories and people can be given a bit of creativity and we can make up our own mind whether or not they're part of the canon.
Well, one of the things with the expanded universe being renamed Legends, I kind of like that in the sense of imagine
like Legends of the Dark Knight. Comic.
Yeah, but if you take it from the point of view of the characters within the styles, well, they could be legendary tales. They're like our stories. So they're the stories of that universe, but they're stories. Do you know what I mean? And the stories are like, say something like Beowulf, which, with the old Norse, he was like this this character who was this legendary character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so someone like Darth Vader, in later times, would be this legendary villainous guy. And stories would have been told about him and the wonderful adventures of Luke Skywalker and the Rebel Alliance and how they defeated the Galactic Empire or whatever, but they're not necessarily canon stories. And that, in a way, would be good because of the freedom. And look, as I mentioned Jackson earlier, anyhow a big green bunny turns up, that's going to suck because he's canon, right? And that's no good. No one wants that. I bet people want that. I don't want that. But do you know what I mean? Like, there's a very, very big risk of something silly happening that just pisses people off, And,
potentially.
The potential for it is there. I know that they have this really, really good story group that are working on all of this stuff. And those guys, they've got everything at their disposal. But I don't know. It just seems like if you give it another 5-6 years, you could be in a position where you've sort of worked yourself into a corner somewhere. And the only option they would have would be to sort of say, okay, it's not canon anymore,
Yeah.
But the books, for me, so far, the books that I've read, you've read all of them. And with the comics being canon, I'm glad that you're reading all those because we can just do this and you can tell me what happens.
Okay.
It's all good. But with the books, they've all been canon. They've all been quite good stories so far, some weaker than others. There was something that I'll mention later in one of the books that I, again, have not finished but have read part of that was quite cool. And I just think that maybe if they just kept like the movies and the books as canon and like obviously the animated cartoons and TV shows, whatever, that little bit could be its own thing, and then you could have the other bits doing whatever. And that way, with like a video game, you could really have the freedom to say, okay, you guys can have, like when you see an MMORPG and then there's like one character and everyone else has got the same arm, and then all of a sudden you're going to have like 200 Mandalorians running around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I definitely like the idea of like whatever's on the screen, whether it's TV or at cinema, that's the canon. And like how they are with Rebels at the moment, picking out things from the old legend stories now,
that's
and
great.
Introducing them in a way that makes sense for that. But that, and I guess they could carry on doing that, but. Yeah, I think there's dangers of saturation, too many different stories. Definitely, I'm bored now of reading stories set between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. Because to be honest, that was when a lot of the Dark Horse did a big relaunch for about 2 years recently, right before Marvel took them up, but led up to that, and it was. Here we go again, me not knowing who it was. Brian Wood, I want to say. Who did them, and again, really fantastic stories, but literally almost the same idea of what they were going to do with Marvel took over. So I've read a lot of books in that time. Luke in his gold jacket. I've had enough of it.
Yeah. and they just said that there's about to be a Darth Maul comic launching as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So okay, now you're getting that one, and that I'll be interested to see what you say about that because. For me, the way that Darth Maul's portrayed in the cartoons He's very different from the Darth Maul we saw in Episode 1.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not sure that I like it because in Episode 1 he was like the bulldog, you know, like when he's pacing around like a caged tiger when he's watching Qui-Gon. Yeah, and he was like just this vicious ball of rage, you know, hate-filled Sith warrior fighting. And then when he comes back in the later ones, I know he went through the whole thing where he went mad and all that, but he's much more like, oh yes, you know, and like all, and it's like, really?
He's gone a bit British, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's gone very like sort of like an aristocrat kind of thing. It's like, I never saw him that way, and especially from watching him in the movie, he certainly was not that way. Even when he's like, you know, at last we will reveal ourselves to Jedi. He was still like this dark warrior kind of thing, you know, like that. Whereas in the cartoons, he's not like that, and it's like they've changed the character. Now that's the canon of the character.
It's knowing too much, you know, and that's the danger with Boba Fett. That was the danger with Darth Maul. They're both characters that just the mystique around them is what makes them interesting.
And this is actually this was brought up by Michael Anthony on our group on the Force Conversations.
Oh, Mike,
group,
yeah, good old Mike.
Right, he mentioned something. I posted something where it was about the Clone Wars, and he said, you know, I liked it when it was in my memory, like in my imagination, and it's true. Like when Obi Wan told Luke that he fought alongside Anakin in the Clone Wars, as a child, that sounded like, whoa, the Clone Wars, like this whole like thing appeared in your head, like what was that like?
Yeah.
But leaving that there in your mind made the Clone Wars so amazing.
I tell you what, Jay, you know, I've been having exactly the same thoughts recently. I just recently listened to there's a podcast called The Weekly Planet, two Australian guys, really funny.
Love that,
Mr. Sunday Movies, and so they have got they've released on Bandcamp. They do film commentaries, and I think it works out about £1 to buy them. You can pay more. I only paid the minimum. I've got all these Star Wars comics to buy. You know, what can I do? And they've done the Phantom Menace commentary. I mean, one, they're really funny anyway, but this is particularly funny. And I listened to it rather than watch it with the film because I wasn't going to put myself through that, but I did listen to it while I was on the train commuting. That film is terrible, and they pointed out all the things that really makes it terrible. And I just kept thinking in my head, why didn't they just tell the story of Anakin once he was a Jedi? A couple of flashbacks, but just set the whole thing. If I know George wanted to do a trilogy, that's why he started so young. Just do a trilogy across the Clone Wars. I'd much rather have seen 3 films set in the Clone Wars with some flashbacks and backstory about what happened to him when he was a kid.
Well, we wouldn't have had any
rubbish.
Just be commented on it like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, or a couple of Force dreams, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, something like that. And because the most important part about Anakin's story was actually him as a Jedi, and then his turn to the dark side. Had they started like that, we'd have had much more time to see this really good and noble Jedi, which is what I wanted. I wanted him to be like he should have been Obi-Wan's
You want
best
to see
friend.
The fall.
Like they should have been like brothers, you know what I mean? And it should have been like they really cared for each other. He cared for people. He's a good guy, and then got taken to the dark side, like something, you know, really tragic, tearing away him, turning him, and that would have made it so much worse. It would have, that's what we wanted. Also,
that's what the Clone Wars, you know, we wanted to see the Clone Wars. That's what we wanted to see from the prequel trilogy. And we could have seen all of that in the, you know, we didn't need to, I mean, the cartoon's main existence was to flesh all that out. You know, they really just...
They did a better job of it than Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we hardly saw anything of the Clone Wars in the films.
Because Anakin in the cartoon, again, was a better guy than Anakin in the movie.
Yeah. Well, the Clone Wars started at the end of Attack of the Clones and finished at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. So we didn't actually see.
So you didn't get it. Yeah, you didn't get it.
You know, the one thing we wanted to see. Yeah. Anyway, I think we have waxed on enough about this enough.
Yeah, I think so.
Bottom line with the comics, they're great. Most of them have been really good. Definitely worth checking out. Comixology always doing sales, so I would recommend getting them on there if you can. They're also a bit cheaper on there after they come out, a bit longer. So that would be the best way. But brilliant. Let's move on to the next segment, Jay.
Okay.
And that would be Theories of the Week.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have we got this week?
Well,
we touched on it last week.
We started going down this road last week, and I had to stop because I didn't want to ruin the content for this week. The main theory that I've been looking at, and I think is really exciting, is Rey related to Palpatine, i.e. is he like her grandfather, and will she go to the dark side? I mean, there's been a couple of different videos. In fact, I looked on YouTube and I just searched Rey dark side, and there was just a million lists of different people with the same sort of theories. The one that I really enjoyed, I think, was the same guy that did the Finn theory.
Vendetta?
That's the guy,
yeah,
Vincent
I
Vendetta.
really like that one.
Yeah, and
he does good videos.
Yeah, he does really good videos. Not as good as ours, obviously, but he does good videos. Well,
okay,
a different market maybe. But basically, he pointed out a few things that made sense again as to why Rey could be related to Palpatine. Would you like to elaborate on this, Joe?
Well, yeah, I really liked that idea. It's, you know what, it would certainly make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Because I really do hope she isn't related to Luke. I think it would be a bit of a, okay, she's Luke's daughter, yeah. But if it was something like she's Palpatine's granddaughter, that would be so interesting, especially if she did start to turn to the dark side. And actually in that Vincent Vendetta video, there's a picture of her. It's the one of her that, oh man.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, yes, this has to happen. But, you know, they've got like things like her fighting style, the fact that she heard Palpatine in the Force vision in Maz Kanata's cantina or whatever it is. There's quite a few things he pointed out there. Just off the top of my
definitely
head right now,
again, what I didn't pick up on first watch, but then when after watching his video, was that fighting style. I mean, because Palpatine's got is very much a stabbing motion. I don't know what the official type of style it's called. You probably know. I don't.
I don't off the top of my head which form it is.
But that fella knew. He had a big list of all the different fighting styles. Yeah. Geek. But I mean, definitely the end fight against Kylo, you could really sort of see that same sort of motion. It really looked like it. And just she definitely was drawing on her anger in that battle as well. And
again in the book, at the bit where she's pacing around Kylo Ren,
a
like voice tells her, like Maul, and voice tells her, kill him. And they describe it, I can't remember the exact words, but it's not Snoke's voice. And it's a voice that is not known.
To her. Not known to her,
Not known to her, which in that case it could be Snoke because she hasn't met Snoke. But, you know, that would be kind of like Palpatine. Like, if you think back to where Anakin was about to take out Dooku and he's like, you know, kill him, do it, you know. So it would be quite interesting if it was
absolute
like
power.
Her grandfather is speaking to her from beyond, like through the Force. That'd be really cool. And I mean, it would just open up so much more that they could do with the story. I love the idea of it personally.
I mean, there have been the stories that's been debunked already, because I think there was a quote from somebody, was it Kathleen Kennedy again, saying that, no, it was J-Day, wasn't it, saying that we definitely haven't seen Rey's parents before.
Right.
But then that's fine, because we're talking about the Emperor being a grandparent. So and I think, did we have a chat about this on text? I remember talking, I think it was when we talked about the potential, it was on the Force Conversations Facebook page. When we were talking about this thing, and I said that potentially Palpatine's had lots of lovers, because obviously being in his position, you know, I know he's not the best looker, but he's rich and powerful,
and he's got lots of power. And
also I'm sure that there's some ladies of the night that he might be employing. So any of those could have been pregnant and definitely wouldn't have told him because would have been scared to or whatever. And so absolutely, there could, Rey could be some kind of relation. There's it's not, I don't think, out of the story. But to be fair, I don't think she needs to be related to him. I'm more interested in the fact that she could go dark. And I definitely think that, to me,
she sensed the fear in Kylo Ren as well. Like when she was holding him, where he was like trying to read her mind, she was like basically holding him in that position. And she was like, you're scared you won't be as good as Darth Vader. And he was like, you could see he was shocked by that as well.
Yeah. Well, some of the criticism for Force Awakens was that Rey got her Force powers too quickly and suddenly became too powerful too quickly. And how did she know how to do this and do that? And how did she know to pull the thing? And how did she know how to do the mind tricks? But let's face it, the quick and easy path leads to the dark side.
Indeed, it does. And look, the thing is, she became in touch with her powers. Kylo Ren even mentions that to a random stormtrooper chick that's just walking along. But the Jedi mind trick bit, maybe it's a bit okay. Well, how did you know to say that? Okay, but the rest of it, I can kind of buy it. The only bit I didn't like was at the end where Kylo goes to her, I can show you the ways of the Force. And she goes, the Force, and then closes her eyes. And then Kylo Ren just stands there for ages, like going, waiting. It's like, dude, like, you really don't need to be waiting around. Like,
I think that was more dramatic license.
I know.
I mean, she definitely knew to call on the Force from her conversation with Boggle Eyes, whatever her name is. God, I'm so rubbish with names today. Why am I so bad? Yeah, her. Or Boggleface. Or Tangerine Head. Turpin. So she definitely got that. What I'm really excited about, and this leads to my next theory, which I'm just going to talk about now, because let's face it, let's live in the now, man. Let's not wait till next week. I think Kylo will ultimately go good against Rey going bad. That is going to be
I would
awesome.
like to see that. It would be quite interesting as well, getting a female baddie.
Yeah.
I don't know what will happen, if the Sith will come into it or not. Maybe she will become, be the re-emergence of the Sith. Let's see how that all works. I don't know how that's going to happen. But, it would be quite interesting. Do you think that Kylo will, with that theory you've got there, do you think that with her going bad, ultimately he'll bring her back? Or do you think it will be, no, she becomes a bad guy and they fight and whatever happens? Because Kylo's still got to pay for killing Han Solo. Fans are not going to allow him to get away with this.
I know, but that's what's brilliant. That's what's the brilliant bit about it.
It would be brilliant about that.
It's because he's almost irredeemable, but he's going to have to be redeemable because he's going to have to save the day
and save millions of lives in the process.
And we're going to have to accept the fact that he's done something really bad, and so the whole point of forgiveness and all that kind of thing and being the better person and it's juicy storytelling, man.
It really is. And
I think we could go some really interesting, again, the criticisms I hear about Force Awakens is that it's repetitive, it's telling, homages to old stories. I mean, I don't care about any of that. I blimmin' love that film. But let's do something different with it. Let's spin on its head, let's break it apart, let's change the way that we think about how the dark side and light side work.
After that first one, after The Force Awakens, they do now have the freedom to go and do different things, because the good thing about The Force Awakens having similarities to A New Hope was that, as youngsters, we all got into Star Wars because of A New Hope. And this is really, in a way, bringing back Star Wars, for us to re-enjoy, but also for a new generation. And it worked. So, and seriously, my wife turns to me in the cinema, and at the end of the movie, she's watched all the original ones with me, and she's like, all right, I can see why you like them, but I didn't really grow up with them. And we watched Force Awakens, and she turned to me and went,
how old is your wife? Is she 12?
She's 35. But she didn't
thank you for saying that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, sorry. I'll cut that bit. I can't say how old my wife is.
No.
I am cutting.
She's very young. But not very young.
But she, she didn't grow up watching Star Wars and that. And at the end of The Force Awakens, she turned to me and went, "This one's my Star Wars." And I was like, "Oh,
and that's
cool."
when you decided to marry her.
And I realised at that moment that, this was kind of like A New Hope for us in a way. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, she really likes that one. Really likes all the characters. I think she likes Darth Vader better than Kylo Ren and that, but she likes Finn, Poe, all those guys. And while she likes Luke, Han, and all those guys, they have a nostalgia thing for us as well, which she doesn't get from them. But with this one, she's watched this one from like all the lead up to it and all that stuff. So yes. Cool. Right, we're really talking over our time, so we need to get moving. What else have we got?
Okay, are we going to do a spotlight?
I can do a spotlight. I'll try and keep it a bit shorter because I've been babbling on for a while. But my spotlight is bounty hunters. We don't need their scum. Let's look for Alf.
Oh, Bosk. Yeah, make Bosk. A little cameo
Bosk. There you go, Bosk. I really like, as part of Star Wars, the bounty hunters. And what it is about the bounty hunters I like, apart from the fact that they all look really cool and have cool weapons, cool armor and everything.
The Empire lineup.
The Empire lineup, right? But it's that Star Wars not only is a space fantasy, but it's also a sci-fi western, a space western. And I like westerns. I like watching, things like the old Clint Eastwood movies, or, some of the modern ones that come out, 3:10 to Yuma and all that stuff. And
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles, classic. But having things like bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe, just gives it a whole nother element, I love some of the stories that are even from the expanded universe. Like Boba Fett is my favourite one, right? Okay. But,
of course.
But as you said earlier, some of the stuff they've done with showing his background has kind of ruined him a little bit for me. And he was meant to be... he's always billed as the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy. Then you've got the Clone Wars, and I like Aura
Solo.
And then you got Cad Bane, and Cad Bane is cool, right? Now, there's this whole thing that has been said for a while, and I really hope this happens because I hated that, because Boba Fett's a clone, we've got to change his voice to make him sound like Jango. No, because... he lost his dad when he was 10 and then went off around the galaxy with other people. His voice would not have stayed the same. It would change. When I was a kid, I'd pick up other slang and stuff that other people say, the way they say it.
And, well, you were really posh in Amersham.
Was I? I was like, really? But you know what I mean? And I hope they go back to the old, "It's no good to me dead" voice, like that old one. And what I want to happen is that
old Jeremy Bullock.
The old... thing that that people have been talking about is that Dread Pirate Roberts thing. That's at some point I want little Boba to get killed and someone else take over, and whoever that is a real badass.
Well, he's the one that kills the little lad.
Right, yeah.
Maybe not a little lad. Maybe he's a bit older.
He's a teenager or something. But at that point, he takes on the name. And I want him to be like a real... He's the Boba Fett that we've all heard about, this legendary Boba Fett. And he could be like someone that, is already hanging around with, Cad Bane and those guys. But that's what I'd like to see happen. And I love that story in... it's Tales from Jabba's Palace, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's where he crawls out of the Sarlacc and then Dengar finds him. And we don't see enough of Dengar, right? But Dengar finds him, helps him get better. Now... this is what I was talking about with the books, because in Aftermath, there was something about some Mandalorian armor pitted and damaged, like as if it's had acid melting it, and it's where the pit of Carcoon was, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, okay, it could be that it just burped up his armor, but I like to think no, because it's got enough acid to melt it. I like the idea that he's crawled out, and if they ever do a Boba Fett movie, which I would like them to do, I would like them to do it where he's crawled out after Jedi, where he's crawled out, and I'd like it to be more of a Western type of movie, like, going after bounties.
Well,
in a dusty
do you remember
world.
like the classic Judge Dredd? You know, when he was on the Cursed Earth and he was the other character.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what that character was called.
Yeah.
I am rubbish today. But he was that whole other character, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he'd lost all his suit and he was just trying to travel across the Cursed Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, that was amazing. That was really cool.
And like with Fett, he'd have more than one suit of armor. So get him to slave one.
Well, you can have a different one.
Or you can have a different one. I mean, you still want him to have the Mandalorian armor. You still want him to have that, because that's Boba Fett, and that's how he's recognised. And I do think he'll have more than one suit anyway. But I'd like to see that. I'd like to see something where, if they did a movie like that, you'd have other bounty hunters come into it. Where it could be, it just has to be a really simple story. There's nothing wrong with simple stories, and it could be bounty A, bounty hunter B's going for it, and all the other ones are trying to get it too, and that's the story. And when I talk about the old Clint Eastwood movies, you think about things like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the Man with No Name trilogy.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood's the main guy, right? But he doesn't talk a lot. He just says a few words every now and again, but it's his presence. And that's what you got to do with Boba Fett. I know people are like, oh, it'll be hard to root for him because he's a baddie. No, he's not. He's a bounty hunter. He's not a baddie. He's whoever pays me, right? He's a bounty hunter, which we've had old westerns about those types of characters before, and you root for the main dude. So, it doesn't have to be these going after Han Solo because you're like, oh, Han Solo's a hero. Like, look, Han Solo's a scoundrel. Let me just tell you. He shot Greedo under the table. Greedo didn't even shoot his gun. So, he's not a good guy. Han Solo's not a good guy. He's just as bad as Boba Fett in a different time of his life, doing different things, right? He smuggles, man. He's like, he's.
They could have bumped into Boba Fett and paid him to take them, couldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's so many things you could do with bounty hunters. I think you could have, and this is why.
But I don't want to soften them up, though. That's the thing.
And I don't. Yeah, that's why I don't like seeing too much about the backstory, and that's why it might be nice to get it after Jedi, because he kind of went out like a bitch, right? And it's like himself. Screaming, right? And it's like, come on now, let's say, okay,
he was killed by a blind man,
right? But this dude drags himself out, and then we have some story that shows why he was considered such a bad guy, and that was just bad luck, right? But with standalone movies going in different directions, you could do like an old spaghetti western type of Star Wars movie, and it would be so cool to have that. Instead of horses, you've got like speeder bikes and stuff, and there's so much. I like just have this vision in my head about what would be cool, and I wish I could see this happen on the big screen. I don't know if we would, but they did mention that the Han Solo movie is going to have a bit of a Western feel, which could be quite cool. But yeah, so my spotlight is bounty hunters. That's one of the things I've always loved about Star Wars. Their ships are cool. There's so many different types of characters, and then you've got like places like Jabba's Palace or Black Sun and all those kind of guys, and all
the Black Sun,
and you've got and then
Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, and when you go into somewhere like Mos Eisley Cantina, hive of scum and villainy, and there's all these different scoundrels hanging around in there. I mean, come on, how much fun would it be to see a whole movie about that stuff?
That was the genius of George Lucas. He created a world. He created a universe. And just in one scene, completely opened up a whole new avenue of storytelling, if you want to go down that route. And the core Saga films didn't do that. They stuck to the main story, but they've opened the doors to all these different types of stories that could be told.
And if you look at Star Wars overall, like you've got like a military side of it, you know, like with the Imperial Navy and all that. You've got all the mystical side of it with the Jedi, like ancient Japanese monks, like samurai, you know. And then you've got a whole Western as well. You've got it all, right? It's got all the different elements in it, and so with these standalones, it's so exciting that they could actually go and make a movie, and it's a Star Wars movie, but it's going to be a Wild West movie, or it's going to be a pirate movie. Because again, with the bounty hunters, you could do a pirate movie, you know, like you could have that with the bounty hunters and the smugglers and stuff like that. So you've got so many different types of things. If you look at something like what's the Johnny Depp one, Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, that kind of film, you could do that in space with a different type of character, and you've got like
with
you
your
have the
mate,
British
with
Navy
your mate
in
from
that.
Rebels.
Yeah. So you know, there's so many things you can do, and bounty hunters for me always exciting, and I love this guy. I love Bosk. I think he's very, very cool.
Have you played him on Star Wars Battlefront? Yeah.
No, because I stopped playing that about a month after I got it.
All right, that's something for us to talk about another time.
Yeah, that is something for us to talk about. I did actually put it on notes for last week's show, but I think I'll put it on for next week's.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Right.
So is that you all bounty hunted out?
I think that is me. That's all I want to say. I want to say how much I love bounty hunters, how much you can do with them, how the Fett man is, you know, he's my favourite. I know some people are like, oh, Fett, but I like Boba Fett. I think he's cool. He didn't do much in the movies, but that's what made him cool, and making him do too much makes him less cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, talking of things you like, if people like this video, what can they do, Jay?
Oh, if people like this video, they can click the thumbs up button below, they can subscribe to our channel, and they can leave us a comment in the comments section. Tell us what you like. We would
love some comments, wouldn't we?
We would love some comments. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like. Most of all, join in the conversation with us, because that's the most important part, you guys. We're here to talk to you, and let's do it. Let's all chat. We'll look at all the comments. We'll try to reply to as many of them as we possibly can. And if there's something you'd like to see us talk about on the show, leave a comment and let us know what you'd like to hear. Other than that, you can contact us on Twitter at ForcedConvo.
Yeah.
And you can use the hashtag ForcedConvo to send us a little message on Twitter.
We also have an email, forcedconvo@gmail.com.
Yep. There's a Facebook group, which we've mentioned a couple of times. It's Forced Conversations at Facebook, or on Facebook. And you can contact me personally on Twitter at _J_Tank, which is the and the letter J and then my name, Tank. And Colin?
I'm at Captain Colin.
And you can also add me on Facebook at JTank if you'd like to, but you cannot add Colin under any circumstances.
No, don't even think about it unless you're in the Forced Conversations group. Those people can, but they tend not to. The other thing I'd just like to remind people, not everyone can have the time every week to watch these videos. We've now put this episode onto podcast feed, so you can now get Forced Conversations on iTunes. You can also get it directly from SoundCloud, and if you go to SoundCloud, you can get the RSS feed and stick that into your favourite podcast catcher and listen to it wherever you like.
And with this video as well, we'll be putting up the whole show, but over the course of the week, we will cut out sections and put them on separately. So you'll see Spotlight on there, you'll see reviews and another bit. But we'll stick those on, and you'll see them come up on the YouTube channel throughout the week, and probably on the other parts of the interwebs as well.
Absolutely.
So, is that it for you then, Colin?
I think we've had our Star Wars talking today. I think I feel like I've let that out of my system. Maybe that's going to let me get through the rest of the week without exploding with my Star Wars excitedness.
Yeah, we have actually gone way over the limit we wanted to, but it's so difficult to stop talking. When you start talking about Star Wars, you just keep talking. But we've got to stop now. So I'm going to sign off, and until next time, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Thank you.